I have not. Today, I want to have a very real conversation about work anxiety, maybe anxiety as a whole, but specifically as it pertains to a career slash job. Anxiety is very real. Work anxiety is very real. I want to make a disclaimer here and say that I am definitely not a champion of mental health, nor am I a psychiatrist. I am a very introspective person. I am someone that talks about careers and life a lot, thinks about those things a lot, but I'm in no way, shape, or form a scientific or medical professional when it comes to dealing with anxiety. This video is more to serve as a reflection and to talk about what I think about when it comes to work anxiety, how I deal with work anxiety, and how I've, in a sick way, turned work anxiety almost as a motivating factor into my current, past, and future successes. I think work anxiety has always been a factor in every professional's life, especially coming into the 21st century as we become ever more connected and we can never detach ourselves from work. And work is constantly a factor in our life, especially when you have a family dependent on it, if your own survival depends on it, and you're in a very high intensive work environment. I think you have work anxiety regardless of what type of work you do. Everyone has the Sunday scaries. If you're an investment banker, you have the daily, every moment scaries. And I think a lot of work anxiety actually stems, one, from your personality, and two, from the type of job you have. I've talked extensively about the work anxiety and the stresses that come from banking on this channel that I have left and now in a newer role that I think has different types of anxiety related to it, but definitely not the level at which I had in banking. To talk more on the personality standpoint, I think if you're someone like me that tends to overthink about yourself a lot, is very self-centered, so your thoughts are always focused on yourself and how you relate to everything else, and especially in terms of your career. And on top of that, you're a very responsible person that has a lot of thoughts about what you're responsible for, the tasks at hand. And when it comes to work, there is always things to do, people you're responsible for, people that you are responsible to. All those things overarchingly tied together by this wonderful pandemic that makes us work and think about things 24/7 as you're stuck inside, working from home with no outlet to release all this anxiety energy into. It only becomes worse. So if you pair up an anxiety-filled, high-intensity job as an anxiety-filled, high-intensity person that is largely responsible, or at least perceive yourself to be responsible, and you're a perfectionist on top of that, anxiety is almost like the soy sauce you get at a Chinese food place that is going to come with the meal regardless of what you order. Obviously, I think as you gain in repertoire and tenure of the work that you do, and there is less prizes and you become more accustomed to it, let's say you find a job that you actually like, there will be an overarching level of anxiety, but I think the daily intensity every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, wake up, oh my gosh, I hate my life, my heart beats faster and I'm sweating, anxiety hopefully probably decreases. That's kind of been the case for me. If you are someone that is a perfectionist, that is an introspective person, that is an overthinker, that is highly responsible in everything they do, anxiety is just a part of you that you have to learn to live with. I've come to accept that it's just part of the reality. That's my thoughts on anxiety. I think it's something that pairs, that's something that follows you regardless of where you go, if you are born this way or if you've become this way, and you just have to accept the fact and kind of move on. Obviously, there are ways to remedy slash combat anxiety. One of the ways that I do is I just think about it. I stand up, I sit down, I lay on my bed, and I get myself to realize we're all gonna die. Terrible way to think about it. But also, isn't something that I just keep reminding myself is at the end of the day, we're all gonna die. That is the one thing that's for sure. But another thing, even more sure than that, is today will end at some point, whether you like it or not. That thing that is causing you anxiety will probably most likely, especially when it comes to a job and it's just a task or a project or a lingering responsibility, will end. There is an end to it. A life exercise, a mentality exercise that I've been using a lot is I ask myself, is this going to bother me? Is this going to give me anxiety in 6 hours, in 6 days, in 6 weeks, in 6 months, in 6 years, in 60 years? And I'm trying to lengthen that perspective more and more and more. Right now, if there's something that's not going to bother me in 6 hours, I try not to let it bother me. And then I want to get it to a point where if it's not going to bother me in 6 years, I'm not going to let it bother me. Anxiety a lot of times is just a question. It's a lingering itch at the back of your head asking you, why is this thing bothering you? Why does it continue to bother you? And how can you get rid of it? And one of the ways to do it is to tell yourself it doesn't bother you. It bothers you largely because you're telling it yourself it bothers you. The other way to resolve it is to just get it done. A lot of times people like me have anxiety because there's something to be done, and I have anxiety over the fact that I know that there's a thought that I have to do this thing. It's not actually doing it that is causing the anxiety. It's the thought that there is is something to be done that causes the anxiety. Every Monday morning, I wake up with anxiety thinking about what video am I going to film for YouTube, because at this point it kind of feels somewhat like a chore and I have to do it as a weekly upload every Saturday. And I think to myself, oh my gosh, there's anxiety over the process of a recording, over editing. But once I get into the grind, once I get into the groove of talking to the camera and acting like I have friends on the other side of the screen, the anxiety is gone. And I think that's a very good reminder that a lot of times, and most times, anxiety is a buildup rather than the release itself. Not meant to sound weird there. Other practical ways that I deal with anxiety is I work out in the morning and I churn through it. I think oxygen in your brain is a good way to get rid of anxiety. I get on the stair climber, and while I try to lose my belly flap from college beer, I tend to think about things that are bothering me, internalize them, and then release them out and realize they're not that bad and it shouldn't really be giving me anxiety. As a man of faith, I pray a lot. I tell God that this hyper focus on myself takes away from my focus on Him, and which logically makes sense in terms of why I have so much anxiety, because depending on yourself and the ideology of Christianity will only lead to bad fruit and failure, because human beings are faulty by nature. I tend to also protrude and tell people about my anxiety, which can go one of two ways. One, people get super annoyed by you because you're always anxious and tell them, I have this wrong in my life, when they're like, your life isn't that bad, which also could be a reminder that your life is not that bad. But two, having that support system of people to wake you up, slap you across the face, and let you know, Brian, you're being anxious about nothing. Come on, you got this. I think is very important. I'm someone that is very easily motivated by negative external motivation, and I like when people tell me to wake up and smell the coffee and realize it's not that bad. There's plenty of other things to worry about, and not that replacing your current worries with other worries makes anything better. But if that replacement worry is not work related, at least you got rid of that work related worry / anxiety for that time being. To bring this full circle, as you deal with anxiety in your various ways of dealing with anxiety, and as you recognize that you are someone that is highly driven by responsibility, perfectionism, overthinking, introspection, and being in charge of others and reporting to others, all causing to this collective nature known as work anxiety, I think it's important to realize that most of your successes have been probably driven by the fact that you have anxiety related to work. There's people that are just very loose and they don't care that there's something pressing on them, or there's people depending on them for that data analysis or that sheet of paper with the information. I think the fact that you have that anxiety has driven you to come to this far and worry about your future, and in turn put an effort to make your future better, unlike others that don't really care about it. Not that you are better than that person or that person is better than you, but it's important to realize and recognize, what is it that has brought me this far, and is anxiety actually a big proponent of why I'm able to talk about the successes that I have today? To get on the stage for a bit and talk into this mic about my accomplishments, I don't think I would have been able to graduate from the university that I did, or get the jobs that I have gotten, or have this channel if it wasn't for the anxiety that is driving me to make daily improvements, to make weekly, yearly enhancements of my life, because I simply have the anxiety driving me to do better and constantly up myself. Accepting that fact, being happy about that, and recognizing that that's not something that everyone has and it could be turned into a positive thing, is a very good way of dealing with anxiety, especially if you know for a fact it's going to stay with you anyways. I hope that this video somewhat helped you guys resolve anxiety, maybe get rid of anxiety, and if anything, embrace anxiety, not necessarily as a bad thing. I hope it didn't come across the wrong way. I know that anxiety is probably not a great thing, but I think if it's something that you know for a fact is going to remain with you anyways, you might as well turn it into a positive driving factor in your life. One sentence summary of the day: if you're going to go to the Chinese restaurant, make use of that soy sauce to the best you can in dipping that dim sum. As always, thank you guys for watching. I hope that you weren't anxiety filled as you watch and finish this video, and I will see you guys next time. Let's go!